Good evening, everyone. It's Kimberly with Unique Finds and Furniture Designs. We are back in the workshop and we are working on a new project here, another table and chair set that we have that's rolled in. And there's some issues with these chairs, so we're going to address those and kind of show you guys the process that I use to mend chairs in a situation that we are working with. So these chairs have been scratched, it looks like, by a critter, like the dogs chewed on them. You know, sometimes your animals get a hold of your furniture and they commence to chewing big knots out of your table legs, your chair legs, and what have you, as well as the scratches that go along with it. So if you have a pet and you've had a young pet that's growing up in the house, sometimes they will get a hold of your furniture and gnaw the dickens out of it. So apparently that's what's gone on with this set of chair legs that I have. Not all of them are as bad as some. I got a couple that are worse than the other two. So I'm going to address them, and I just want to address them on this workshop with you. We did, however, share a little clip earlier today, this morning, on the vinyl when we were painting the vinyl leather. And we did apply slick stick to that, and then we commenced to let it dry overnight, and then we came in and put that process on. So I hope you guys got a chance to catch that video. If not, we will share that over to our YouTube channel. So if anyone is here with me, let me know. I can't really tell. It's hard to tell tonight if we have someone viewing with us or not. I can't tell which way this is supposed to go. So anyway, if you're here, thank you for joining us. If you have just found us in your news feed and you stopped scrolling, we welcome you and we thank you for listening and watching with us for these few minutes that we are going to be in this broadcast. And again, my name is Kimberly, and we try to get these workshops out there. I think now that we're moving into these different phases with COVID, hopefully we will be able to bring back some of our workshops. We may start that off on a Saturday, maybe demoing at some of the different locations, and me just demo. That way you guys can feel comfortable to come in, visit, whatever. We'll consider that and walk through that as we go along. But I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in, since I know everyone's time is valuable. You don't want to hear me jibber jabber all day long. I'm going to get to the point and get on and let you guys see what we're doing here. So again, I welcome you. It is our Thursday night broadcast. Hope you got to catch those earlier ones. So I'm going to come in and work on these spindle chairs. And we're going to address the issues on the feet of these chairs, which is really why I wanted to do this. And hopefully I can figure out a way here that I can get you guys to be able, I might put it up on this table. It might make it easier for you guys to see. I'm not really sure. But we're going to be using tonight the Dixie Belle mud, and I'm using it in white because of the fact I'm going to be painting in white on the chair legs. So this is going to help I paint with the color that is closest to the color I'm going to use on the pieces. And I have a little sandpaper here with me. I have a glove and also a little stir stick and some, these are the materials you might need, and some baby wipes. You know, I always have my baby wipes. So I'd like to get started and show you guys what we're going to be working with here. And maybe if I can bring you guys up. Whoop, sorry guys. Bring you up here. I'm going to bring this chair. I'm just going to tip it up on here just to see if maybe, yeah, we can spin her around. So I think that will give you guys a good view. Don't need to see me, you just need to kind of see what we're working on here. And so you can see on this particular one that it's gouged out pretty good. This is a dog's been chewing on the spindle end of these chairs. There's some over here. We're going to address that. Since this is not a structural issue, I mean, it's not gone all the way through. It's just kind of chewed and marred it up. So if you get a project in like that, We're gonna grab our Dixie mud for this because it is not in a super structural area. And I would take my sanding paper. I have a little sanding paper here. Just gonna kind of rough that in. Kind of get the rough edges off. I've been sanding on the other ones prior to this video. So you can see I just kind of smoothed it out a little bit. Maybe I'll bring it in. I just really don't want to see me. I just want you guys to be able to see what we're working on here. And I hope I got you up high enough. So maybe you guys can kind of see that really well. So we're going to come in with the Dixie mud here and we're going to fill this in. The great thing about the Dixie mud is it gets super, super, super hard. So if you let it sit overnight, even a couple of days, that Dixie mud gets really hard, but it's very easy to sand, which I'll show you with the other chair leg that I've been working on. So we're going to apply this with, you can use tape if you needed to, but in this case, I'm just going to use my glove because it's easier. Sometimes you can use your little stick here. I just got like a little popsicle stick here. It makes it kind of easy. This is the white Dixie mud. It's very, very pliable. So you see, and I'm just going to come in here and just kind of add it. And I'm just going to fill. You could use your glove to do this, but I'm going to use this little stick here because when it dries, then, and you see, I'm just gooping it on. And the reason I'm doing that is because when it dries and hardens, it will get very hard, kind of like Bondo gets hard. But the difference between the Dixie mud and the Bondo is the Dixie mud sands so much easier. So in these not quite as structural areas, I just kind of put it on here. Yes, I'm gonna have to sand. I'm gonna have to create that look again, but I'll be making these little round spots on this leg. So I'm just gonna come in here and just kind of add it, and then when it dries, I will be able to sand that real smooth, and I'll show you on another piece because I want to get it kind of built up there because I'm going to pull it back down. Let's see if I can spin this up here. So I got another spot here. It might be a little harder for us to see, but maybe I can get it in. So can you guys hopefully you guys can kind of see that there as well. Bring it in a little bit. I don't know if that's going to work, but anyway, hopefully you guys can see where it's gouged right there as well. So you can see where the little dog or whatever cat, whatever's gotten a hold of this, it's really gnawed the dickens out of it. So I'm just going to fill it. I'm just going to fill it in there. Doesn't have to be fancy because I'm going to come in at a later date. Once this cures and gets hard, I'm going to come in and sand that. So you can see there's other little spots. This is easy to sand. It's not too thick over here. There's another one I'm seeing on the camera there that's right in here, but that I can sand. But it's not too bad. But this one over here on the end, I can feel it with my finger. So it's going to be a little bit more. Pull this around so I can kind of show you, because the goal is to show you guys. So see this right in here? That's where a little dog, a little something. I'm saying a dog. Don't blame it on the dog. It might have been the cat. I don't know. Right? My daughter would say, no, 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 no. Never the cat, always the dog. So they really took these chairs really took a beating from the dog. Or cat, whichever, from an animal. It took some animal abuse. So you see, I'm not being too particular. Yes, it's a little thick, but I'm going to let it dry for a couple of days and it will get rock hard. But the wonderful thing about the Dixie mud, even though it gets rock hard, it's easy to sand. It's the only thing when it comes to when I use Bondo is much, much harder to sand. So I'm filling in these little bitty teeth marks and everything that are on there, the heavy duty ones. So I'm going to go over on the other spot here which is, there's a little nick, another little nick up under here. Hopefully you might be able to see that there. So this is just the Dixie mud, just filling all those voids, if you will, with the Dixie mud. And I'm not being too particular. It doesn't matter. I don't need to be particular. All I need is to get those holes filled. And I dropped it. That would be good. I dropped the stick on the floor. That's not good. So, and then I'm going to come in here. I'm going to work in here and just fill any of those that, you know, I can feel with my finger. And when you clean up with your Dixie mud, make sure you just kind of use a baby wipe, because trust me, you're not going to want to get this down in your drain, because it will dry up in your drain and it will close off your drain because it will get rock hard. So this is also awesome for using with a stencil. So say you have a stencil, I'm going to get one and do it for you guys. That'll help demo it for you. Doing a stencil with the Dixie mud, it really makes for a nice element on a bed frame, maybe on a headboard where you may not have any design or something on it. You can create it with this Dixie mud. So I'm going to let that kind of cure and then move you guys to a different project and show you. I have one over here that's dried up a little bit. I'm going to set this one up. Oh, those chairs are heavy. And see if I got any big ones that I missed. Let's move this around. Okay. Yeah, here on the top of it. So you can kind of see right here, see how it's dog-eared out. This is perfect for the Dixie mud. It's not a structural area, but it just looks bad, you know. I'm going to paint these. I don't want to see anything like that on my chairs. So I'm just going to build my Dixie mud up. I know it doesn't have to be beautiful. Trust me, you're going to sand it back down, and I'll show you on the other chair. So I'm just going to put this on here because I can form the Dixie mud to make, you know, these circles on here. I can create whatever look I need to with the Dixie mud because it's very moldable. And once it's cured, once it's dry, super easy to sand. That's the big thing. That's the big difference between Dixie mud and Bondo. Bondo is much harder, but in a structural area, I would use my Bondo. But since this is just where it's been chewed on by a dog, it's not really a structural thing. It's just an aesthetic thing. That's the big difference right there. It's just an aesthetic problem, and it doesn't have anything to do with the structure of the piece, but it has everything to do with the look. So definitely I got to fix it. I'm going to fix all those little scratches, and I'm going to bring you over to another chair that I have already done the mud to. So I'm going to let my mud sort of dry. I think that was one of the chair I did prior is my worst chair. These other two, I think they're just something I can sand. And not always do I like to sand, but in a case where, let me just throw this at you. In a case where the chairs have scratches like this on it, that is something obviously I'm going to have to sand out. You know, we say, oh, you don't have to sand with Dixie Belle products. Depending on what you got. Now, if you've had a cat scratch this, use this as a scratching post, of course you're going to want to sand that smooth before you paint it. Otherwise, it's going to look rough underneath your paint. So, I mean, that's the important step that you might have to do. Sometimes you have extra steps you have to do depending on your pieces. And so now I'm just going to kind of bring this other chair into play and find a spot that I didn't sand. So this one was just as bad as the other one. I'm trying to find I did sand on this today prior, and so I want to find where. That's the thing, if you put your Dixie mud on, now you got to hunt for the spots that you were sanding. So I'm going to just bring it in here, kind of bring you down onto these chair. So this is where I have come in and repaired with the Dixie mud, and you can see I've come in and I've sanded. You can see those heavy scratches there. I've kind of sanded, come in with some very mild sanding paper. Probably one, let's see what grit this is, if it'll even say on this one. So 150 grit sandpaper. And you can see that I have come in here and sanded this Dixie mud. Just come in here and smoothed out all where that cat or dog or whatever it was made all these scratches in there. So it just filled it with the Dixie mud. Now it's just smooth. When I paint over it, you're not going to know that it ever had those scratches or even the dog, the chewed part on the legs. So in here, here's a spot where I filled with the Dixie mud. And I'm just coming in here. You'll see, look how easy it is to sand the Dixie mud. This is 100 grit paper. So you can see how it just makes it smooth. So this was a big chunk missing out of here. So you see now it's filled. When I paint over it, you won't ever know that that was a big chunk missing. Same right here where the dog or whatever. Here's where I've got the Dixie mud. You can see how easy with only 100 and, what did I tell you this was? 150 grit sandpaper is just kind of lightly, just barely putting any pressure on it. And I can mold around. All this was dog ate. So all this was chewed up on here, just like what we just filled. And that's how it looks when you are, when it's sanded down. Now, it might still be a little soft because I did apply this today, so it did get hard enough for me to sand and mold. You can see I molded right around this edge. And I can lay this down, and then you guys can kind of see. You can see where it's kind of rough right in here. And I'm just going to bring you on in. So I'm going to come in here, right in this spot here. Hopefully y'all can see. I'm just going to lightly, with hardly any pressure at all, just kind of sand this in. This is a case where you might have to use some other products because these issues from being chewed up by the dog. So you can fix it. So I'm just going to lightly sand over it. And you may need to add a little bit more. Just depends on how much you put on the first time or how much you sand off. So I just kind of come in here and clean up the issues. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just coming in here and cleaning up any issues that were along this foot, because this, you can see here where this was all chewed up and chewed out. Now you can't see it at all because I've filled it with the Dixie mud. And I'm using white Dixie mud on purpose because I'm going to be using white when I paint these chair legs. So as long as I can't feel it with my finger, remember that little piece of information. If you can't feel it with your finger, you're not going to see it with your eye when you paint. So that's important. So when you come in here and you sand it, if you still feel a little dip there, you're probably going to see it. So I would suggest add a little bit more of your Dixie mud. And just take your time with it. If it's your pieces, you know, it's taking your time and getting it done the way you want it. That will be the best results when you apply your paint. It's going to have your the best smooth finish on it. So that's important. So in a case like this, yes, you have to add a little bit more time to your work, only because your work has more structural issues. So don't think you have to throw the chairs out. If the dogs chewed them up like that, they don't have to go in the trash pile. You can fix it. You just have to come in here and take a little bit of time and do it. Now, had this whole bottom half of this leg been chewed off, then I would have gone in with the Dixie mud, with the Bondo, because it would have been a structural thing at that point. But since this is not, this is just aesthetics, non-structural, which is important. Some of this on these other areas that look like they're chipped off, you know, I do suggest just getting you a little piece of sandpaper and sanding them down and sanding those chipped edges off, because you'll see them under your paint. So in some cases, you will have to apply other products to your piece. So I'm gonna flip this up here and set that on my knee here, because here's another area that I had. This was all chewed off here. So this is another area where I'm just gonna gently use. You can see how easy, real easy to mold the Dixie mud. You can let it set for a couple of days, because the longer it sets, the harder it gets, kind of thing. So then you can kind of make your spindles. This is on the bottom aspect of the chair, so it's probably not one of those areas it's going to be as noticeable as the top, but it's definitely worth getting in and fixing. So I just take my sandpaper and I just kind of mold my chair where it used to be, or how it used to be. So you can see just how easy, not really applying any pressure, just kind of knocking that mud back, that Dixie mud back, so that it's not as noticeable where the dog had chewed it all up. So this one was all chewed up just like the other one. I just filled those big gaps, filled it with my Dixie mud, let it sit, let it cure, and then once it's dry, you can come in here and you can sand it back. It's real easy to sand. I kind of like it. I definitely like it easier. If you were sanding Bondo, you know, you're probably going to have to pull out the sander, which is going to make it really hard on all these rounded edges. So if you have any questions or comments for me, just message me. Just shoot us a message here while we're on. If I can answer any questions for you, I will do the best I can and help you along the way with your projects as well. But if you have never had the opportunity to use some Dixie mud, this is a good project to use it on when you have these dog-eared, call them dog-eared, might as well call them dog-eared, they're dog-chewed issues, non-structural, but definitely an aesthetic issue. And I do mend those before I put paint on them, because obviously you don't want to see chunks missing out of your furniture before you go to paint. So that's what our little workshop was on this evening. So if you guys have some chairs out there that the cats use as a scratching post, and you need to make some mends and clean some of that up, your Dixie mud is your go-to item for that. So we wanted to just get on here and demo that for you guys. Cleanup is super simple. In my case, most of the time I will just use the baby wipes, and with whatever you're cleaning it, if you're using a spatula and you need to clean your spatula, mine is just a just use your baby wipe. You can clean it right off, water based, so you can clean it. And don't wash that in the drain, because you don't want your pipes hardening up on you. Once that Dixie mud begins to harden, you will not be able to use your water in the pipes anymore. So we don't want to do that. So and that makes it easier for you to mend and repair without having to drag out the sander with using some Bondo. So this is our Dixie mud by Dixie Belle, and that's the application process. Do let it sit overnight or a day or two so that it can get good and hard, so that you can sand it and mold it to make your chairs look like new again. So I'm going to continue on working on the rest of these chairs. You guys are probably going to get back to your evening. If you were here with me and you dropped in, we can't thank you enough for being a part of tonight's broadcast. We hope you have a blessed evening, and hopefully we'll see you on the other side of the weekend. I hope everyone stays safe, and thank you for joining us tonight. Have a safe weekend. Goodbye.